is that 52 years you've been wandering around the planet?
Yes, yes.
It's a great story.
Well, all up, I can live on $650 US a month.
So this is Dan of Vagabond Awake, and today I feel absolutely delighted to have David on the call, the interview. David, great to have you.
Good to meet you, Dan, and your delightful wife.
So we were here at one of our favorite coffee shops that our friend Larry introduced us to, and we ran into David. And David's happy to have you here. I love your story, and I'd love for my audience to hear it. So what's your home country?
I come from New Zealand. I was born there and brought up there, and left when I was about 29.
You left at the age of 29, and that was in 1973.
1973.
And you went where?
From there I went to Hong Kong.
Right.
I had a short-term job which ended up being a 5-year stint.
Right.
And from there I joined up with Warner Brothers.
Right.
And had fascinating 10 years with them in Asia and the UK.
Right.
Then I guess 20 odd years in Hong Kong and China, just as China was opening up, doing some development work on manufacturing.
Right.
Down to Australia, where I spent what was going to be 6 months looking after a friend's property while he was away. Ended up running his vineyard, and then 5 years ago I retired and started traveling around Indochina, spending a lot of time in Vietnam.
Right.
In particular, the lovely city of Dalat.
Where we sit today.
Where we sit today.
Yeah. And well, that's amazing. So is that 52 years you've been wandering around the planet?
Yes. Yes.
It's a great story. That's the longest I've interviewed over 150 people, and I think that's the longest I've heard.
New Zealand what it had going for it early on was a great education system, which leveled out everybody. Everybody got a chance to do their best. I didn't come from a particularly wealthy family. It wasn't a poor family, but I was good enough to get to university, and that basically was paid for by the government, and with the fees were paid for by the government. And I found that many people in my area, many New Zealanders in my area, Australians perhaps similarly, have benefited from this great education system which qualifies them to go anywhere. And in 73, a very quiet country, to go from there to Hong Kong in 24 hours to the world's fastest country.
Yeah.
It was just like a drug, and I've been transfixed on that ever since. It just reminded me of the expression I used to use: living in Hong Kong was like mainlining life. You woke up and the buzz, you could feel the buzz. You be away somewhere and you walk into the old Kai Tak airport and you could feel the energy just emanating out of the place.
Yeah, it vibrates.
And nowhere else have I ever felt that feeling.
Yeah, that's Hong Kong. It vibrates life, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
And so, in all that time, and moving and living much in Asia during that period, what would you say that when you go back to see family now in New Zealand or whatever, what's the difference of feeling in Asia versus New Zealand in your case?
Well, I have to admit I don't go back to New Zealand very often. I haven't been back for 6 or 7 years. It has developed. The population has gone from 3 million to 5 million, and consecutive governments have not built up the infrastructure to cope with this. So there's all sorts of hassles on infrastructure, housing, which has disrupted what the country. And in my view, the New Zealand government suffers from what many Western governments suffer from, and is that the key is to stay in power rather than run the country properly.
And now you spend time in Vietnam. What is it about Vietnam that you love so much?
Well, it's Asia, and it's part of Asia, and it carries with it that energy that all countries in Asia has. And it's just walking the streets, and I do a lot of that, and when I'm around Asia, and including Dalat, you can feel that. You can feel. I can see in the time I've been coming regularly to Vietnam, I can see a property which has had a business, 3 or 4 businesses in the last 5 years, which suggests that businesses fail, but also they've got the resources to develop a new one.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a great economy. That makes a successful economy.
Yeah.
And there's just the energy is just oozing out everywhere, bursting out everywhere to make lives better for themselves and their families.
Yeah, it's so true. And what about so when you do spend time when you come on a 90-day visa, what does it cost you a month to live here?
Well, I've got a sort of a good arrangement with a delightful landlord here. So I keep an apartment here. That costs me, well, all up, I can live on $650 a month.
All up?
All up, and that covers accommodation and food. And I should add that I'm not scrimping on food. The quality of one of the attractions of Dalat is it's the market garden of Vietnam.
Yeah.
So fresh fruit and vegetables are here in abundance and cheap.
Right.
So that's a big helper. So I mean, I could spend a lot more, but at my age, I'm more than happy to. I love reading, so that doesn't cost anything. I love walking, that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to impress anybody, so my clothing bills are just to keep a decent pair of sandals on my feet. And what I'm wearing today is my basic uniform for the year. So.
That's great. And so have you had a chance to use the healthcare here? And if so, is it reasonably priced? Is the care decent? What are your thoughts?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know a lot about it here. I have been using a hospital in...
If you like my free ebook about how I fired my boss and traveled the world for 17 years and how I pay for things, come to 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝐿 and grab the free ebook.
Know a lot about it here. I have been using a hospital in Bangkok for my medical needs, and mainly just doing checkups, annual checkups.
Yeah.
But during COVID, I was here and got caught in the COVID era, but the Vietnamese government very kindly allowed us to stay. And while we were here, they provided all foreigners, and I'm talking about Dalat, but I assume it was throughout the country, with 2 jabs over the period we were here, free, which were administered at the public hospital. The 2 jabs I had were administered efficiently and competently, and I've got no complaint about that. There is a private hospital here that I'm aware of where I wanted to do a blood test just to check cholesterol and prostate at my age. It was done competently for $1 million, which is
$40 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, the written results is as good as you'd get anywhere. So from what I'm aware, I've also done a bit of dental work here in Dalat. That's been fine and unbelievably cheap. Spectacles I get here, I wear. Unbelievably cheap. I mean, it makes me wonder what they charge in the West for things like just basic things like spectacles.
Yeah. And so, what's an example? If you go out for lunch, what's a typical lunch you go to? What does it cost?
When I meet friends here, we go out. It's for 40,000 to 50,000 dong. You'll get a good lunch. When I say a good lunch, a filling lunch with fresh ingredients, vegetables, etc. Yeah. And you know the pho and the other stuff here is satisfying. You just got to look at the average health of the Vietnamese. Of course, they have a good cuisine here.
Yeah, so, and they care about their health. You see them in the parks working out. The beaches. When you go to the beach, it's a very healthy country. Forgive me. I think you're 81.
81. Yes.
81 years old. Yeah, and about how long have you been coming to visit Dalat?
I used to come up here occasionally when I was living in Hong Kong on golf tours, which is where I first became acquainted. This is roughly about the year 2000. I came to Dalat once then.
Yeah.
I've been coming here. I decided that I'd like to spend more time in Indonesia when Australia was wearing a little thin on me.
Yeah.
That was about 5 years ago. And I started coming here on a regular basis about the early 2000s.
Right. And what would you say is it about Dalat that's different than maybe other parts of Vietnam that is really attractive for you?
Well, first of all, the climate. I mean, if you don't like the climate of a place, what's the point of going there?
Right.
And Dalat, you don't get the tropical heat and humidity of the coastal regions.
Right, right.
So that's number one. It's neither hot nor cold. Most days of the year, I can just wear a pair of shorts and a polo shirt.
Right, right.
Secondly, I didn't want a place where there were a lot of expats. I didn't want to get into an expat community. What's the point of coming to Asia if you're living in Asia if you want to spend time with expats? And
right.
At the time when I did this research, there were about 200 expats, I'm told, Western expats in a city of 200,000. So that was about the right ratio for me.
Yeah, yeah.
What I've since found out is that and also the food, the market garden of Vietnam. So
yeah.
Food, and particularly fruit and vegetables, are in abundance here and unbelievably cheap.
Yeah.
But the real bonus has been the friendliness, the kindness of the Vietnamese people. Most Asian countries are friendly, but here the Vietnamese are kind. You know, the number of times where people just stopped and said, "Are you okay?" When I was climbing up some steps and I got caught up there where they had closed off the people stopped on the motorbike and reached out to give me a hand. Never hit. I tried to say thank you. No, it's okay. I mean, so many examples of that. It just stuns me.
Yeah.
Particularly as they've got every reason to be a little concerned about obviously a foreign person in this country.
Yeah, they've had some trouble with foreigners, including Americans
and New Zealanders.
Yeah, you know. But like you, I've never heard a question even about, for example, the Vietnam War or just the kindest people and very loving and honest. It's just such a great country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love it here.
I've never heard anyone bitch about the history of foreigners.
Which is remarkable.
All they want to do is get on with their life.
Yeah, of course. They're thinking about their business, their family, how to make their life better.
And it's not just they tolerate foreigners; they're curious about you, and they'll ask you questions.
Yeah.
How old are you? Are you married? Do you have children? But they're not in an offensive way.
No.
They're just genuinely interested. And it's sort of, you get involved in telling them things you wouldn't tell other people.
Of course.
And they're quite happy if you ask them questions. Oh yeah, no, I'm single. We meet again.
So that brings up a good question. In the times that you are here, and have you done any dating? Are you interested in dating?
Well, I'm heterosexual, just to get that on the record. And I've had over my time in Vietnam, over time in Asia, many Asian girlfriends. In fact, the only girl I've asked to marry me was a Chinese girl in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Whose parents weren't very happy to take in a foreigner on the basis that we beat a woman and had mistresses, which I found interesting given China's record of concubines and abuse. But in Dalat, I really lost sort of 2 years with COVID because it was difficult to get out. But I have a number of, I was going to say lady friends whom I talk with. Not so much dating, though there's one or two that I am trying to push ever so gently, but I've got accustomed to avoiding commitment. It's not difficult if you want to make a commitment and share.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned that you have a one-bedroom apartment that you keep here when you're in town. What is that per month? In dong.
And it's about 10 million dong, and I say about because it's when I signed up, it was in US dollars, which is at the moment $400, which is all up, including power, Wi-Fi, all that sort of stuff. But we're just turning it into dong as we speak, so it's about 10 million dong a month.
So, and you're around 650 all up. That's amazing.
US dollars, yeah. I don't want to give a false impression. 1,000 US you would live like a king here.
And probably that you hear that number from many of your friends, right? And since you've been in Asia so long, you may know how to save $1 here and there that other expats may not know how to save, I would think.
Well, I mean, my needs are much simpler than they would have been 10 years, 20 years, and particularly 30 years ago. It's an economical place to live. For a good quality of life.
Oh, it is.
Sacrificing a quality of life.
Oh, yeah. So do you feel safe living here in Vietnam?
I have never remotely threatened in any form. The most dangerous thing is crossing the roads here. The traffic rules, whatever they say in the law books, is that small gives way to big. And if you understand that, then you're in no problem. It's the Vietnamese. They change once they get on a motor scooter from the kindest, most generous people to the killer drones. But once you're aware of it, you learn to adapt to it. They're not trying to knock you over. They're just you've got to cooperate with them, and if they got a bike and you don't, you give way.
They've grown up in this environment. That's what they're used to, and so
absolutely.
Every country you have to go and figure out how it works and find your way through it. Right?
I mean, is it a challenge? No, it's quite interesting.
It is, David, it's really a joy hearing your story. I'm sure my audience is going to have fun hearing your story also.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
And you too.
We'll come bother you when we're in Dalat again.
Please do. Yeah, I gave you my phone number.
Yeah, I have it in my pocket.
Yeah.
To see more videos about expats who are living all over the world and retired and what it costs and all of that, watch this playlist right here.